It doesn't just happen to older people. It happens to young people. More than a quarter of strokes happen to people who are of working age, like say people under 60. Hi, so my name's Fiona Davison. I'm an engagement lead with the Stroke Association, and I work across the northwest of England, so including Manchester, to engage the health system, the stroke community, and people with lived experience in order to influence and shape for better care and treatment for people affected by stroke. I've been doing this role for a while, and I've worked for the Stroke Association since 2018. It's a great question, and the main message is stroke can happen to anyone at any time, and often there aren't any signs that a stroke is approaching. So you may have heard of what we call about acting fast. So when someone's having a stroke, there are sometimes some symptoms to be on the lookout for, but you don't know it until the stroke is happening. That's quite often you see some signs, such as we say F for face. If your face is fallen on one side, can you raise your arms up above your shoulders and keep them there? They're two very common signs when somebody's actually experiencing a stroke. Is their speech slurred? And that's a very common aspect of when someone's having a stroke. The main thing is, if you aren't sure, but you suspect that somebody's having a stroke, the most important thing to remember is time is crucial and you must call an ambulance. There are other signs as well of when somebody's having a stroke. Sometimes it can be blurred vision or loss of sight in one eye, a sudden and severe headache like a bang in your head, or sudden memory loss or confusion. Our main point would be it's not up to you to be decided whether it's a stroke or not. Even if you're not sure, please ring an ambulance. And the importance of ringing an ambulance is it means you get connected with a stroke consultant from the ambulance and you get taken to the right hospital for the right treatment. So that would be the main message really about the signs and symptoms of a stroke. What a stroke is essentially, we call it a brain attack. And what we mean by brain attack is when the blood supply to part of the brain is cut off, and that affects cells in your brain, which is why then there are effects afterwards, because the damage to the brain affects how the body works. It can change how you think and how you feel. And the effects of a stroke depends on whereabouts in your brain it takes place and how much damage there is. So there are two main kinds of stroke. One that we say is an ischemic stroke, and one is a hemorrhagic stroke. In simple terms, that one is a clot and one is a bleed. You might also hear about a transient ischemic attack, or a TIA, sometimes described as a mini stroke, and that is usually the same, but the effect is less because it's something that's a clot that's smaller and will dissipate itself, so therefore the damage is less. The effects of a stroke are devastating. I'm sorry, there's no other way to say it. Every day in the UK, 240 or 250 people wake up every day to the catastrophic impact of a stroke. And like I say, with the message, anyone, mum, dad, grandparent, young people, even children can have a stroke. And the damage that it's caused can leave people with difficulty in moving, in seeing, in speaking, even swallowing in some difficult circumstances. We might not play this now, but we've got a short film to show you that gives a bit of an idea about the impact of stroke, and that'll be available on the forum. The main message I would give to people whose families had a stroke, or to people who've had a stroke, is that for a lot of people, stroke is recoverable, and that is a message of hope. It takes time and it takes support, and often takes both clinical and medical rehabilitation and support for life after stroke. Thousands of people do survive a stroke each year, and more people are surviving a stroke than ever before. But it does mean that people's lives are upside down and often need support. But there is support available for a lot of people. There is support available in Manchester and support available across the Northwest. In the Northwest, we have some of the best acute and emergency treatment for stroke in the whole country. So I would say don't be without hope. It is difficult at times when somebody you know is affected by stroke, and recovery can take a long time, but it is possible in a lot of cases. In the Stroke Association, we work, it isn't just us, but we work in conjunction with a lot of the clinical teams. And by clinical, I mean specialist nurse people, specialist rehabilitation, as well as a lot of medical staff in the community. And we work alongside them to help people to move forward after what is often a very frightening experience. So we do have recovery services. We can provide practical information, emotional support following a stroke, and quite often we can support with specialist communication. A lot of people live with aphasia following a stroke, so we do work to support a lot of the medical professionals around that. We do also have a number of information points on our website that we can share, and also really good links with the carers support services that exist in every local area. We support people, like you said, we do individual one-to-one support for people in Manchester, but we also have a stroke helpline that is open 6 days a week for you to call, and that's for anybody, whether you are affected by stroke or whether your family is. And they are, again, trained professionals and counsellors who are there to support anybody after stroke. We will share the details of our Manchester support service for people affected by stroke, but we also have an online community. And again, we know that many people don't want to or can't travel. They don't want to be in spaces outside of their own house. So an online community, which is growing, stroke community, can really help people to connect with other people who are affected by stroke, where they can support each other and share experiences and look forward together. And we also have a suite of online activities, which is like a social meeting space, and there's lots of different activities. And again, it's provided for and by people affected by stroke. We have a network of stroke groups across the area, and there are a couple in Manchester that we will also share the information for. So for example, there is an aphasia specific charity who do a lot of work to support people with their communication practice, because not being able to communicate is incredibly difficult for a lot of people following stroke. And everyone has a different risk, and lots of those risk factors we can't do anything about. Some of them are hereditary, some of them are linked to our ethnicity, but actually some of the things that increase the risk of a stroke we can do something about. So for example, I would urge anybody to be aware of your general health condition. And if you have been diagnosed with diabetes, for example, please take that seriously and manage your diabetes. If you know you have high blood pressure, please take the steps that are recommended to you to manage your high blood pressure. I would also ask you to be really aware of your heartbeat. And we quite often say, please check your pulse quite regularly, because sometimes an irregular pulse can be an indication that something might be happening in your body. We've got a very powerful video for you to watch that gives a really good example of how to do that and why. So one of our message is, please take your health seriously. And it's quite often other health conditions like high cholesterol, diabetes, high blood pressure. It's where they're not managed. They all increase your risk of having a stroke. So I would urge anybody to be aware of how active you are, how much you drink, if you do smoke. You know, all of those things about our lifestyle are what we call they're modifiable risk factors, which means we can do something about them. If you are having a stroke, right, you say getting the right treatment at the right time is absolutely crucial for recovering well. Like I say, in Greater Manchester, we have fabulous acute treatment, but you need to get to the right hospital. So that's why the ambulance message is really important. Even if you hear in the media that there are ambulance delays everywhere, it's still the best course of action. We use a lot of technology now in diagnostic, and AI in particular in stroke is really having a particular effect on how quickly we can diagnose stroke. The quicker we diagnose it, the quicker we can get you this life-saving treatment. And I've talked a little bit about one of the ways in which is a stroke. It's a block, so it's a clot in your brain. There's a life-saving technology called thrombectomy. If we get you to the right hospital at the right time, thrombectomy is a really fabulous, technically complicated, but literally it's a claw that drags the clot out through your blood vessels, which releases, so the quicker they get to do that, then there is less damage and the clot will hold, so they can literally pull it out. And we're talking teeny tiny, the size of a pinhead, even smaller than that. But that's the technology that's available. And when those people who have a thrombectomy, who's eligible for it, it absolutely reduces their disability. It just doesn't just save their life. It means that the effects of the stroke aren't as severe. And that's one of the things as an organisation we've campaigned for and worked with the clinical community to make sure that thrombectomy is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's been something that's been available for a long time, but only Monday to Friday. So now, again, in Greater Manchester, we have one of the leading centres for thrombectomy that is where it is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which has been a real stride forward in stroke care in the past few years. And that is available at Salford Royal, which is one of the leading hospitals across the northwest for emergency stroke treatment. So if, for example, you live in Gorton or you live in Fallowfield, the chances are you'll go to Salford Royal for your emergency treatment, but then be moved back to the hospital nearer to you. So you might be moved back to Wythenshawe or Stepping Hill or wherever else you live in Manchester to continue to recover, but your specialist treatment will be done at Salford and then you're moved back to your local hospital. But that's why calling ambulance is so important, because so much about stroke is preventable. I would urge anybody to be aware of your general health condition.